Good morning and welcome to 7 at 7 from the Economic Times, your daily news capsule to get you started for the day. It's Friday, August 30th, and I'm your host, Anirban Chaudhary. Global news. The US stock markets rallied Thursday with the Dow Jones average climbing to a record high. The markets that had been hit by lower than expected earnings at bellwether stock Nvidia made a comeback with gains in Goldman Sachs, Intel, and Visa. While one tech stock whose earnings beat market expectations due to a huge boost in its AI servers was Dell. Today, market watchers will be tracking the July personal consumption expenditures inflation report in the US, which, as most of you know, is a measure of what Americans are paying for goods and services. The July numbers are likely to reassure investors that a rate cut from the Fed will happen soon. Now, economists polled by the Wall Street Journal expect the headline PCE price index to remain steady at 2.5% year over year in July. But the core number, a more closely watched measure that tracks volatile food and energy costs, is forecast to drift higher to 2.7% from 2.6% in the previous month. Now, this higher number might complicate the timing of the rate cuts, which is otherwise expected in September. Remember, however, that revised data on Thursday showed that the US economy grew at a healthy 3% rate in April-June, not 2.8% as earlier estimated. This is more than double the growth rate of 1.4% that the US economy clocked in January to March. Turning inwards, the global view of India remains a mix of upbeat and bleak. Moody's ratings Thursday revised the country's economic growth projections for 2024 upwards to 7.2% from 6.8%. Why? Because of improved prospects for agricultural output, higher than normal rainfall, both of which would lead to higher rural demand. Not everyone is so confident about India's prospects though. Fitch Ratings retained its sovereign rating for the country at the lowest investment grade of BBB with a stable outlook. In doing so, it cited the country's strong growth prospects but weak fiscal metrics. What do I mean? Well, Fitch is worried that a weak mandate for the ruling party BJP in the last elections and a coalition government will limit its ability to bring forth major economic reforms. Here's some good news. Today, that's Friday, global index provider MSCI will rebalance its indices, adding 7 Indian companies to its global standard index. That will potentially bring $5.5 billion of net inflows into Indian stocks, one of the highest ever during the index rejig. The MSCI will also increase the weight of HDFC Bank in the index. Remember, the rebalancing was announced on August 13th. On to corporates and rich people. I know the world and its uncle have been tracking the Reliance AGM and must have rejoiced its consideration of a bonus issue for the first time in 7 years. You must also have been reading about the Adani-Ambani neck-and-neck race and SRK, that Shah Rukh Khan's inclusion in the Hurun Rich list. But here's some exclusive good news from the automotive sector. ET learns that Mahindra and Skoda Auto are in talks to form a 50-50 joint venture to share costs, tech and vehicle platforms. The JV will focus primarily on battery-operated SUVs, and we all know how deeply Mahindra is invested in the EV story. Remember, Mahindra and Volkswagen, that's Skoda's parent, got into a supply agreement in February. From automobiles to aviation, the SpiceJet crisis continues. India's aviation regulator has said it has again placed the financially troubled carrier under enhanced surveillance to ensure the safety of its operations. Meanwhile, the airline itself announced some more bad news. It has placed 150 of its staff under furlough due to the quote-unquote ongoing lean travel season. Remember, SpiceJet has been searching for investors to raise much-needed funds of about 3,000 crore rupees. Well, nothing's happened yet. Ending as usual with news from the world of startups. Quick commerce firm Zepto has raised another $340 million from new investors General Catalyst, Mars Growth Capital and Epic Capital, taking the total funds it raised in the past 2 months to $1 billion and its valuation to $5 billion. Remember, in June, Zepto made the year's highest fundraise of over $650 million. Well, this is one company to watch out for as it zooms ahead for a planned IPO. That's your 7 pieces of news for today. Keep reading the Economic Times for more. Listen to the latest episode of the Morning Brief podcast today, where we spoke to women doctors about how woefully unprotected and unsecure they find their working conditions. Keep listening. This is your host Anirban Chaudhary signing off. Have a good one.